Hola a todos y bienvenidos. I am Luis Felipe Muñoz, Tax Territory Leader for Mexico, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to this very special conversation from our Mexico City office. Today, I'm joined by a great colleague who has been helping steer the tax conversation in the US and globally, Chris Chandreskar, our US tax leader. Chris, bienvenido.
Thanks, Luis. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on this one.
We'll be talking through some of the biggest developments affecting our clients and teams, from tariffs and tax policy shifts to domestic production trends, AI, and navigating global uncertainty. Let's dive in. Let's start with the trade and tariffs. The US and China recently agreed to resume negotiations while pausing some of the major tariffs, and exemptions under USMCA still play a very important role here in Mexico. There is a lot of movement. Reduced rate restrictions, the 10% baseline tariffs, reciprocal adjustments still looming. How are these shifts impacting clients in the US, Krish? And what ripple effects are you seeing across North America?
Perfect. And look, the timing is really good on this because part of what you've seen is even as recently as Monday, there were a lot of developments with the president issuing letters to probably 14 jurisdictions. So this changes every day for us a little bit. But stepping back, I think right from when the first announcement was made in the April timeframe, or the big announcement was made, I think the biggest thing we've seen with our clients is in certain sectors, pharma, auto, there have been immediate moves to model impact of these potential tariffs on their supply chain. So there's been a lot of movement around supply chain, either nearshoring, addressing costs around changes from tariffs and duties, and clients are trying to understand what the cost will be. So just a basic modeling exercise. The second piece that's been happening is clients are starting to understand that this not only affects their cost of operations, but gives them a chance to step back and look at overall that this is not just a cost exercise, but how does this change potentially their operational footprint? And so they're starting to see that while the conversation starts with tariffs and potentially certain cascading tax considerations, what does it mean for operations? And clients are starting to identify that in a number of cases, more conversation is needed between their manufacturing side to their distribution and logistics side. And then the third place that's coming up is pricing strategy. So how do they then consider, is this an opportunity? Should they keep the tariff costs and use this to gain market share? Should they pass on the tariff costs and potentially reduce share, but start to at least maintain profitability? So a lot of these scenarios are being planned by our clients to try and understand what the impact will be. A really important piece here is, other than in certain industries where this is really impacting, like auto, it's been there for a while, few clients are actually fundamentally changing their supply chains. They're doing a lot of modeling. They're understanding the cost considerations, but they're not ready to fundamentally change business operations yet. They want to see what stays stable, what kind of adjusts, because every month there's changes that happen. So they want to understand the impact, but they're not really moving yet. But I think once they see what happens in August, maybe we'll start to see movement. So that's the current state of play that we're seeing right now.
There is still a lot of complexity, therefore, but also opportunities.
100%, yeah.
And especially for those that you mentioned, those who are currently modeling, assessing what will be the next stage.
That's right.
That's also very interesting. We are also seeing a similar approach from Mexican clients, US subs or non-US clients.
Yeah.
So here planning around uncertain political environment is key.
Yeah.
So it will be key. So they are monitoring, modeling, meeting with lawmakers.
Yep.
It is not only a matter of tax policy, it's also a matter of business strategy.
100%, yeah, that's right. And I think that's the biggest piece around the tariff side is it started off with being, at least in the US, our customs team used to be sitting in a corner and not very big. There's some traditional strategies, but over the last 6 to 12 months, just the relevance of customs and tariff discussions, not just in the tariff and supply chain place, but just across the businesses, I think businesses are realizing the impact that this can have in these sectors for everything from operationals to pricing to everything. So it's really opening up doors when we're talking to people that we've not normally had to talk to in our client operations. So it's giving us a chance to kind of understand our clients' businesses too.
More holistically
That's
approach.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Krish.
Yeah.
And we also seen major momentum in tax legislation, as you mentioned. Last week, the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Yeah.
So this package will have a lot of impact over Mexican clients doing business in the U.S. And any multinational doing business in the U.S. What's top of mind of business leaders right now for?
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think first, a lot of people have been surprised by the pace at which this bill has been passed through. At each stage, people were surprised that they moved to the next stage, and then they were like, okay, this is going to be really complicated. It's a really big bill. So everyone was expecting that it'll take some time, but it's been, to give credit where credit's due, the fact that they got the bill signed by July 4th was quite impressive for the size of the bill. Now, in terms of the implications for our clients, I think the biggest consideration that we're getting out to our clients with is from a tax perspective, from an international tax perspective. I'll start there. A lot of what's happening from an international tax perspective is actually consistent with what's been there since the 2017 Act. So it's really important. A lot of our clients were frozen for a little bit. They were not sure what they should be doing. They were trying to understand what's happening. The biggest message we would give to them is, for the most part, a lot of the international provisions, the international tax provisions, are broadly consistent with what's been there for the last 4 or 5 years. And so you can have some sort of stability around planning, executing, complying, if you have a sense of what's been happening for the last 3 to 4 years. So that's a really important starting point. So the clients don't need to wait anymore. They can continue to operate. And that's a big advantage for us, and it's an advantage for clients to start executing on other parts of the business, if you will. There are some details that are computationally different. So just like we've been saying for the last 4 years, tax in the US tax, especially in the international arena, has become very much a modeling exercise now. So even though it's consistent in principle, there are some detail points that require remodeling, updating modeling. Okay. So the rules are mechanistically the same, but you need updated modeling to understand financial impact. So that's the biggest thing on the international side. The other piece I'd mention is, from both a domestic and a U.S. International perspective, there remain some incentives. So tax doesn't just have to be a reporting side. There's a complexity there, but there are still some incentives to, as an example, do domestic manufacturing. There are incentives to accelerate energy transition elements. Now, there's a lot of press that some of this has been taken away, but what's been taken away is 3-4 years down the road. Okay. And so there's immediate actions that you can take to accelerate some of this work. So tax can be a source of funding or credits and things like that. So that's still there. R&D expensing gives a great opportunity to clients to start going into investing in the US and things like that. So there are both reporting changes that allow clients to move on, and there's some real credits and opportunities that clients can move on with. So we expect there'll be a lot of conversations. We've already seen an uptick in client conversations. There will be some rulemaking that'll happen, regulations come out when there's a new bill. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure our clients will start paying attention to that part of the stakeholder management piece. But I think we're really excited in the US that clients don't have to have uncertainty. They can start moving, at least on this piece of their agenda. They can start executing on planning and reporting.
Therefore, good news.
Yeah, that's right.
And from the Mexico side, we're closely watching all the international changes too, especially anything in connection with transfer pricing, cross-border transactions, funding from the Mexican point of view to leverage those incentives in the US, digital economy. So those kind of aspects are also very important for Mexican multinationals doing business in the US. So also, you mentioned that there is important measures around nearshoring, reshoring, energy deregulation, accelerating AI adoption. So in Mexico, is really, really important for us because Mexico is really very well positioned, geographically speaking. So close to the US market, growing tech, energy investment. How do you see those trends shaping up?
Yeah, and I think it nicely brings together the first two parts of our conversation, right? We started with talking about trades and tariffs, and then we moved to tax. And in both of those cases, if there's one underlying theme for this administration, it's been trying to create as many incentives as possible to create manufacturing in the US if possible, try to bring business into the US. They're trying to make US a very attractive destination. And they're trying to create a very favorable business environment. That's been the objective of both the trade policy and the tax policy that we've both been discussing. And like you mentioned, the location of Mexico and its centrality on so many of these sectors. So if you think about auto, Mexico is central to our auto industry at the end of the day and the supply chain. If you think about pharma, we've got important presence. If you think about retail and consumer products, we've got very important links between Mexican business and US business. So I do think each of those, whether it's in the trade arena, whether it's in the tax policy arena, it's really important that that we are connecting our clients on the cross-border implications and considerations. The objective of all of this is to increase activity. It is to increase more activity, but there is complexity, there is cost involved, there's some modeling. It's become a theme in each of these conversations. So we've just got to create clarity for our clients through all of this. There's a lot of opportunity. They're getting a lot of news. So how do we create clarity for them in all of this? And depending on the sector, depending on the industry, how do we provide them the right pathways that they can do so that they can continue to run their business in an efficient way?
Therefore, the rules are there, the clarity is there, then it is time to take actions and to continue the process. So
That's right.
If there is one word that defines global business landscape right now, therefore, it's uncertainty.
Yeah.
Where it is geopolitics, new data rules like EU AI Act, or regulatory fragmentation, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
What are your clients doing to manage risk in this environment?
Yeah, and I think one of the messages we've been giving is the early reaction of clients was, okay, it's too uncertain for us to do anything. That was the early theme over let's say the last 9 months, 6 months since the new administration. Uncertainty, therefore I will not act until I know I have certainty. I think over time, our clients are recognizing that there is going to be uncertainty. Uncertainty is now a common theme across multiple phases. So we can't just sit. And so what's most important is risk adjusting decisions that have to be made. So each of the things we talked about, modeling and understanding implications of tariff policy. What is the cost going to be? What are the alternative pricing models? What does modeling do? It helps understand the different opportunities, the different objectives, and allows us to risk adjust and make decisions. Okay, if the size of this change leads to this range of outcomes, then I can, on a risk-adjusted basis, say, hey, somewhere between A to B, I'm willing to take action, and we can take care of the rest of the business opportunities. So I think risk has become an area where clients that are willing to stick their neck out a little bit and say, look, I'm not going to sit stable. I'm going to inform all my stakeholders of what the potential opportunities are, but let's make some risk-adjusted decisions. Those clients are starting to separate from their competition a little bit. So our recommendation or suggestion to clients is we are no longer going to be in a risk-free environment. That's gone. Those days are gone. So the really differentiated clients are going to be the clients that are comfortable with a little risk, but not being irresponsible with the risk, but being comfortable with risk. And being sure that all the stakeholders that are involved understand the risks such that you make decisions understanding the risk. And then because you've done the modeling, you understand if risks start to come through in the market, how do you need to change course? And so you're constantly risk assessing, taking some action, reassessing, taking the next step. And so I think risk has become what we'd like to think is risk could become a competitive differentiator instead of becoming a disadvantage. And that's how we're trying to consult with our clients around this work.
Totally agree. Our message to clients here in Mexico is also quite similar. Use this moment to modernize, review your risk exposure, strengthen your internal controls, and build agility into your tax and legal strategy, where the data will be key in order to assess properly the risk and take decisions based on those data. So I think that comment about that the risk management should be key is really top of mind of our clients as well. So, Krish, last question. What will be your advice to clients in Mexico on turning all this uncertainty into opportunity?
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect segue from where we ended the last answer. So I like to think about it in three broad areas. I think more than ever, especially for our tax clients, there's a chance to work across three areas: technical, operational, and financial. And here's what I mean. Normally, our tax functions have been very focused on the technical tax side. That still is super important. We just talked about the tax bill. It's really important you educate all your other stakeholders about what does this tax bill mean for you? What are the technical implications? What are the credit opportunities? Things like that. So that's the technical piece. But we can't stop there. The new tax function also now has so many complex reporting requirements. I know there's US tax requirements, there's local Mexican tax requirements, there's Pillar 2 and global requirements. So how do you operationally get the organization ready to ensure that you're not only technically compliant, but you're operationally efficient? And all our CFOs are asking our tax functions to be efficient. So that's the second area. How can we help operationally? And then the third piece is financial. We often are viewed as a middle and back office center in tax, but how can we become value creators? So financially, how can we actually improve the tax positioning of the client? It's not just how can you manage tax, it's how can you create credits and incentives if those are around. And then what we ended with, tax involves risk, but how can we risk mitigate the organization? How can we have controversy-ready files, which is an added value to the client? So how can we help in the risk arena? So I think for my clients, I would say it's a chance for our tax buyers to play bigger in the organization. And if you can do it across the technical, operational, and financial spaces, it starts to elevate kind of the position of tax in the organization.
That's great. I like that. Reinvention, evolution, transformation. I hear that. So at PwC, we're prepared to help organizations navigate this evolving landscape and collaborate together. So I think those messages are key. Thank you, Grish, for being here.
It was great to be here, Luis. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.